All right, it is news time, info time, data dump time, and review time. There's going to be a lot of stuff in this video, so we're just going to try and get through it as well as we can. I'm Umber Rays, in case anyone out there has forgotten, because I've noticed some YouTuber commenters lately have been like, oh, thanks for reminding us who you are, so you're very welcome. All right, sass aside, we are going to get right in talking first with the fact that the latest update has dropped on the JP side, featuring the countdown to the 1.5 year anniversary, which can end up giving you some lapis per day, as well as some resources that are sorely needed, so that is great. Also, the Trial of Judgment has dropped. The boss for it is, of course, the Guard Scorpion. I don't think that's really any kind of a surprise at this point. Taking a look at the event itself, pretty standardized. Doesn't look like the structure of the event has changed at all. Darn it. But one of the things that has changed from the early data mine is the piece of equipment that you will be farming off of it. So let's show that off. I know I have one already farmed. Here it is. Shinra Bangle, it has changed a little bit. We have the aim version, the critical version, and the shield version now. So basically accuracy, critical rate, or, protection. Those are the three options. I want to say that there was a evade option, but it's that might just be false memory. Regardless, something that has changed on it is the effect now. The passive effect on this before, from the early data mine, was Human Killer, and that has since been changed. It is now increase of critical damage from going up to a 5-star. And for the other passive effect is an increase in defense penetration for this piece of equipment. It is, for all intents and purposes, I think even stronger now. At first you think, oh, Human Killer. Human Killer is really good of a effect to have. But if we ever do start getting other enemy types, or just the fact that this probably ends up working out to more damage, and, seems like the FF7 units are pretty all about, luck and getting criticals. Well, this is just really good. I mean, you're just dealing more damage. This works for a lot of different units. It does have a little bit of a bonus for physical base units to get around the defense stat, but I think that this is a very strong piece of equipment, and I think you'll be farming a lot of. Of course, the Laswell Vision card has also come to the game, and I don't really think there's too much to talk about that. That Vision card, to my knowledge, has not been changed. Acquired AP and agility for the entire party. Human Killer for maxing it out. Yeah, I think that's basically what it is, and an increase of attack. It doesn't look like the stats have changed, so that is still a very strong Vision card, making the base stronger. Alright, moving in, let's talk about some summon stuff really quickly. First of all, something that I did not get a chance to upload earlier, going to talk about it real quick. Guard Scorpion, very much a cloud-based summon. It's essentially cloud summon. I think you could also get away with this on Frederica. It does have an increase for slash damage, but if you went just for the lightning damage, I think it would still be a perfectly fine summon on any other thunder element, because it does have a lot in towards just dealing out more thunder damage. It does decrease missile resistance with Cloud Kit, as well as a lot of thunder units damage. So I think it's pretty strong. Also, taking a look at it in comparison to one of the others that I have pretty much maxed out right now, Omega, who's another physical summon. As you can see, the stats are pretty darn comparable. A little bit stronger in terms of a physical based summon. I think that overall this summon is pretty valuable, and its Vision card is pretty darn nice too for thunder based units, so great. Alright, next up, just gonna cycle through all of this, is Siren. And Siren did get a kind of interesting upgrade. Taking a look at her kit, some new parts to it, of course, the summon damage, which is to be expected, but she did get a decreased attack skill activation, which is interesting if you think about her as being a pierce attack unit, or a pierce attack summon. Decreasing maybe casting time on jumps might be something to be reevaluated in the future. Might just be, it essentially works with Aerith as well, who has some activation time that frees up her support skills a little bit better. Siren as a summon also works potentially with more as well. Yeah, Siren, kind of interesting. She also gets more water attack on the other side of the board, which works really well with the water elemental characters that are coming out. You know, it's a little less restrictive to saying like, oh, you need to do Pierce now. Well, no, you could actually just end up doing water attack and it would probably be fine in that sense. So maybe the way we build Siren in the future is just going to be different. And I think that's interesting in terms of a discussion. Either way, I think Siren might be worth a 3-star, especially if you have more as well as Aerith. I think both of those units greatly benefit from Siren. All right, next up, if we here, you know what, let's use the elements to make it faster, is Ochu. All right, a chew to you two. Higher critical rate on this summon now, as well as an increased amount of defense, which is an interesting little mix. It was already had wind resistance, critical evasion, plank killer, lightning killer, increased lightning resistance. It was kind of a defensive summon before, but now it ends up getting a fair amount more of defense. Taking a look at it, 15 extra defense stat, has slash resistance, and now with an increased critical rate too. I gotta say, I think Ochu is a fine summon for, you know, someone who's looking for another defensive option. Of course, Phoenix and Golem already exist, but slash resistant physical defense summon with a lower cost. Given that on the JP side we see a fair amount of guild battles with special rules, a lower cost summon might be kind of nice. So I'll give him a a fair recommendation. I think Siren's a little bit better, but Siren kind of goes a little bit more to making Aerith overall better, and that was something I was more looking for than another defensive. That's, you know, not all bad. I click on the right one. Oh my god, another. Wait, no, Surges is ice, isn't he? It was a misclick. Alright. Surges, let's talk about our friend here. If I just remember from my brainlessness. Alright, so Surges gets 3 basic upgrades. First of all, to one of his self-buff attacks that gave himself a 40% attack increase critical rate. Now also gives himself some more defense and spirit, 20 for each for 3 turns. So his buff essentially makes himself a little buffer. And okay, taking a look at the support skill, this now ends up giving him some defense debuff resistance of, when fully maxed, 100 for himself while giving him a pierce attack. And his last but not least, I mean, you can also look that he's getting some more AP, he's getting some extra, you know, attack stats and whatnot. His new ability, however, is a move to unit panel. We'll just take a look at the range here. Has the spread out attack that with a 200% modifier can inflict slow and grants regen to Surge is. And you know what? I'll say I think this is a fine upgrade. It really kind of paints him as being more of a defensive unit, which is not something I really thought about. It's kind of interesting with a Dragoon kind of unit. You know, like he essentially can put himself in some danger by jumping to an enemy. So if he can, you know, buff himself, make himself more resistant to damage, and then also hit the enemy, cause slow on them, and give himself regen, maybe there's enough there to be an interesting kind of getting close and attacking other units. It kind of also synergizes with the idea of Barret right now, where Barret's, you know, a pretty good DPS with some defensive stuff that keeps him safe, or at least safer. Might be the exact same thing, but to a more cheap option. So Surges, I think, gets, you know, I guess I'm rating these EXs lately, so let's give it like a B+. Until someone shows me the proof is in the pudding, because I'm not really interested in making this unit. Like an EX, like it's just been too expensive with FF7 lately. If people could show me this unit like really turning out good performance, I'd be up for a discussion of him being a good low tier EX unit that would be good for clan battles or guild battles that are limited. It might be enough, but honestly, I don't think that Surge is overly impressive to me. So B plus until proven that he is better than I. Next unit to talk about, and both of the other two units we got to talk about are here in the light element. First of all, Fina-chan. Hold on. I have something for this. Oh no, she should. Oh, there she is. Fina. Right there. All right, let's take a look at what Fina ended up getting. I am having mouse issues lately. So you can see stat-wise, she does get a little bit more speed, gets a little more attack, some magic, some AP. Magic stat gets buffed. I mean, it's a little all over the place. I'm not entirely overly competed like an attack buff, but her new ability does support it. I think that overall probably wanted to go in on age-related material. But anyway, so what did she get? First of all, this is by far the biggest one, which is the fact that her healing spell now. Where the heck is this it? Yes, I do believe this was the ability beforehand. Pretty sure this is the one. It's basically was just a HP heal before that had, you know, an AoE on it. It now becomes a bigger AoE, a diamond AoE. It still has 3 uses. It still costs much of the same. No, I am looking at the wrong ability. It's one of Odor. This is the one. This is the correct one. It's the 34 TP or Curaga one. This not only heals, I mean, the heal is essentially the same if you just look at the skill, but it also now dispels all ailments for allies. That's right. It's a diamond. It becomes a diamond AoE heal with the 210% modifier that dispels all status ailments. Holy cow, Fina actually has a purpose now. She could actually be slotted into high tier difficulty, potentially farm-based teams. I think that it is completely reasonable. I don't think that she is a faith farmer only anymore, because this is a very strong heal ability on this kind of a unit with a large AoE that can potentially get a lot of your units. And given that Marlboros are appearing a fair amount on the JP side, a just reset button, an option for getting rid of some of those nasty status ailments, you know, such as frostbite, for example, or paralyze, or lots of other status effects that have been showing up. I think that Fina is a legit, really good mid-tier option for an EX, and I am strongly considering her at this very moment. All right, moving up. Oh, this mouse. Please send a new mouse if you can. All right, her range increased by 1 and magic by 15% for herself. It's an upgraded to now have an increase of healing power. This obviously, I mean, this sounds kind of, you know, if you took it by itself, I don't think that this is a great upgrade. This magic wasn't the most amazing, and she really needed another bow that kind of came with the Rosa event. So that's good, but with this new healing option, if you consider those two abilities together, this is a very, very strong combination. Just a good modifier on a heal that is one of basically, it's just the biggest AoE now. It is also getting a healing power increase. I think Fina could be a legitly good healer, especially for a mid-tier and a lower cost option. I think that is really a possibility. And her last new ability is this damage ability, 165% modifier, decrease accuracy by 43 or 3 turns to the target. So a kind of blind effect, but is not a status ailment, which is good. I mean, it's a debuff against enemies. Maybe it's the difference between winning and losing. Maybe this is some good support for, you know, some more dodgy teams. Don't entirely know exactly how well this will perform because it is a little bit luck based, but it is kind of interesting, and I think it's a fine ability. You're not necessarily, with the upgrades, I think you're looking to, heal more now and be more support, and this is a good support. You're not necessarily caring about the damage if you're making the enemy less accurate, and maybe you're just saving HP in that way. I think it's really good synergy. I would give Fina an A for the most part, because I would like to see a full 120 build of her where she has I would like to see a 120 build of this girl and how much she can heal in comparison to Aerith, for example, or Yuna, and or Ayaka, and just see what the comparison is. But that dispel all ailments is just way too strong to be ignored. I think that it is incredibly powerful on a lower tier, lower cost unit, and I think it's taken Fina into being a really strong consideration for a unit you know. Alright, and shoutouts to my Intervision buddies from the last event where we were talking basically about Engelbert, and I got the opinion that a lot of people are pretty positive on Engelbert, and I'm here to say I think Engelbert is the best of the three for this EX batch by a good margin. I took a real quick look at the comparison of his stats against Lord Mont and also Warrior of Light. What is interesting is that once Engelbert actually gets into his EX fully maxed, just like the other two, he actually has more HP than both of those other tanks. He does have a lower agility than both of those tanks, so it ends up kind of evening out between the two. Taking a look at dexterity as well, pretty much to my memory, I remember Mont having a higher dexterity, but him basically having the same dexterity as Warrior of Light. That's kind of interesting that his stat boost, I think, is competitive against other tanks. I think that he can be a really good, he'll have a really good amount of HP when you end up getting. But of course, the proof is in the pudding, as I have said now multiple times. What about his EX? So what did he end up getting? Well, he gets 6 more agility, which again, we've talked about, that really puts him on par, or pretty close to par, with other tanks, and I think that is really important to remember. He gets some more attack, and I think that's important. We'll talk about that. More dexterity, more HP nodes, and again, it is comparable to tanks. Thanks for that evaluation. Starting off with one of his supports, his main support, defense and HP up, also gets a healing power increase by a factor, or by 20 for himself. And you may be wondering, well, why do we want that, Umbra? We'll get there. But this is a good increase. I think you run this ability anyway, and we'll talk about why that's important. Also, his second ability to upgrade is his Guts ability. Now, basically a 200% chance to ignore fatal damage for himself, 29 TP. So what does he end up getting from this? Well, now it's going to be up in the number of usages that it can get, so it's no longer a single use ability. It can actually be used twice, but it now has hate generation on it as well, and it is the same hate generation as a maxed out Mont's ability. I'm sure Globalers currently are getting very used to seeing Mont around, and he has his increased agility for himself and increased chance of being targeted. When fully maxed, it's like 12 that he gets for hate, and this is the exact same thing for Mr. Engel here. Engelbert is getting a very strong buff to one of his most essential skills, because this is something that you're always going to be running as a tank, and if it's doing something else and you're getting more efficiency from it, that's great. I'm really excited. This is a fantastic upgrade to his kit. So I am over the moon about this one. I think it is really, really good, and I just think it's very, very strong. All right, and last but not least, certainly not least, is his new ability, This is a attack. As you can see, it has a very small range on it, but it does synergize with that support upgrade we were talking about. First of all, increased defense penetration for himself by 50. So when he hits with this attack, he is going to be getting through a fair amount of the enemy's defense. That's very, very strong. This ability also has 3 uses and 22 AP. Given how costly some of his other abilities are for, potentially using up AP, this is a really strong ability. Like, getting 3 uses and quite readily used. Has a 175% modifier, but it also has 2 interesting caveats. First of all, its damage increases as HP decreases. So not only are you dealing, not only are you getting through the enemy's defense, not already do you not have just a really good modifier of, 175%, but you're also basically, the harder you hit this guy, the more revenge he is going to get. I really want to just call this like revenge strike. I think it might actually be its translated name, something to do with revenge. I didn't look at the name of the ability before this, but anyway, and I'm not going to do it right on video. You have to keep going. But the big cherry for this entire ability is that it's now going to absorb 50% of the damage done. And given the fact that he has a massive amount of HP, given that he is a really good physical tank, if you essentially get him down to about, I don't know, maybe 10% HP left, in combination with the upgrade to his support skill and the fact that this attack is just very strong, and we have a light base damage up sword on the JP side that came with the Warrior of Light rerun, I think Engelbert is actually a fully competitive tank and an incredibly dangerous tank, in the exact same sense of how dangerous Yuna is as a character to fight. Anyone who knows when you fight Yuna, if you don't kill her and that counter procs, the fight becomes much more difficult. Sure, maybe you can one-hit kill her, but the point is, if you don't, you're essentially in really deep shit. And I think Engelbert is the exact same kind of flavor, where, boy, I can only imagine this ability, if you're getting up really, up close and personal with this guy, he gets in close and lands one of this attack and you did not kill him and he is really damaged, you might be facing an entirely healed Engelbert, and he can do this 3 times, potentially. I'm not saying that Engelbert is completely proofed, but in terms of what we look for in an EX unit, in terms of what I look for stop saying in terms of an upgrade, I think that Engelbert is straight A+ for a lot of reasons. First of all, I think he was still a pretty decent tank. He had fallen behind because a lot of the newer units had hate generation and everything like that. Well, he has hate generation on one of his best abilities now, and his new support skill, which was basically always going to be run, essentially gets a upgrade, in a partner ability of 120. Now with that being said, I am going to say that I think if you are going to be building Engelbert, you need to get him to 120. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You really do need access to his job level 25 and that skill, because until then, his kit feels incomplete. But if you get him to there, I think he is completely competitive. I think that he slots in really well with a light element team. I think he is potentially really interesting with other light elemental damagers. And I think he could even maybe get into high tier difficulty stuff and still be a really good damage dealer against bosses, potentially. I think it's all there with the sword that I know that exists already on JP, with the what we see in his kit. He got everything he needed. He needed hate generation, he needed self-healing, he needed some good damage options. I think it's all here, and it's potentially really interesting. And so yeah, Engelbert, congratulations to all of you guys. I think he's as a day 1 unit, I find quite a bit more life. Anyway, so that's it for everything with this review. This video, a long one, but there was a lot of stuff to talk about with the new FF7, the changes to the equipment, and all the stuff that has dropped. But hey, I guess, you know, it's a 1.5 anniversary birthday for Fina, Engelbert, and Surges. Happy birthday to these guys. Very merry unbirthday. And it is a birthday. I was trying to come up with something clever off the top. Now, it's ruined. You ruined it.